Okay, I want to finish Lecha. So, on page 60, we have a war. We have the First World War, and you'll notice the trouble starts with, we have a question that we have to answer. That's good, El. We have a question over here that we have to answer. If you remember last time when Avram Avinu said to Lot, you can join us over here if you want, there's plenty of room. Avram Avinu said to Lot that you go your way, I'll go my way because we're brothers. Ki anoshim achim anachnu. And if you remember, Rashi said over there, they looked alike, right? Which seems like an almost irrelevant detail. Avram Avinu and Lot looked alike. Domim b'klaster panim, their faces looked alike. Okay, we understand he looked like he's his nephew. So we understand that as his nephew, they looked alike. Why does that matter to us? Why? I mean, so what? Number one. Then, it's not like they were having an argument who's better looking. Like me and my brother are arguing who's better looking. What kind of argument is that? Then on page 60 it says like this: Vahibi me Amraphel, in the days of Amraphel Melech Shinar. And Rashi tells us that this Amraphel was really Nimrod, and it's called Amraphel Amar Pol. He's the one who said, fall into the fire. He's the one who threw Avram into the furnace. And it says, it mentions 4 kings. They waged war. Asu Milchama as Bera Melech Sodom. You notice each one of these names. Bera Melech Sodom, the word Ra. He's no good. There's Birsha Melech Habora, the word Russia. Shin of Melech Adma, he hates his father in heaven. Sonei Aviv, Shin of, from Sina. Vishem Aver Melech Tzvoyim. Shem Aver means he put on some sort of wings. Aver is a limb. He put on wings to fly up to do conflict with Hashem. Umelech Bela Hitzar, the king of Bela, which is Tzoar. And it doesn't say his name, but I noticed that the word Tzoar means tsar, trouble. He probably was a nasty guy who tormented his people. Now, those are 4 on 5. So they go to war over here. And the 4, on the way, the 4 destroy all other people. If you look at Pasuk Hey. Uve'arba'esrei shana ba'kedar la'omer v'malachim asher ikto. Kedar la'omer, who seems to be the leader of this group, even though Amraphel is named first. Vayaku es refai b'ashros karnaim. They destroyed the refai. Vesazuzim b'ham vesa'imim b'shavi kirisam. They go knocking off all the interim people. And then they go to war and they beat these people. They beat the 4. The 4 defeat the 5. And skip down to Pasuk Yud Aleph. The 4 defeat the 5. Vayikchu es kol rechush Sodom v'Amorah. They take all the property of Sodom and Amorah. Ves kol ochlam vayelechu. They take all their property and all their food. Page 62. 4 lines, 5 lines on the bottom. Vayikchu es Lot ves rechusho. They take Lot and his property. Ben Achi Avram, the nephew of Avram, vayelechu v'hu yoshev b'Sodom. What caused this? It caused because he was in Sodom. So the 4 defeat the 5. And they capture all of Sodom. They take all the property. They take all the food. And they capture Lot and his property. Ben Achi Avram. Now, it could have said they captured Lot, the son, Ben Achi Avram, and his property. It would have been made more sense, to say, who is Lot? It should have said, they captured Lot, the nephew of Avram, and his property. But it doesn't say that. It says they captured Lot and his property, the nephew of Avram. You hear the difference? Lot's property came from Avram. That's true. That's good. That's why he got it. The Hu Yoshev b'Sodom, and he didn't realize that. He went off to Sodom. He didn't realize that it's all because of Avram, and he blew it by going to Sodom. That is one approach like that. However, let's see. We're going to put it all together. We're going to put a remarkable concept here. Vayova Polit, the refugee, from the word Lot. Remember I told you the word Lot means the one who escaped. Polit means the escapee, the guy who escaped the battle, which Chazal tells us was Og Melech HaBashan. Vayaged la'Avram ha'Ivri. He tells Avram ha'Ivri. And Avram is called the Ivri. He's well known. He's a well-known man. He's the Ivri. He's a famous guy. And everybody, why does he go to him? Why does he go to him? Well, because his nephew was captured, but even more than that, they know that Avram is the man who stands for truth and justice. He's dwelling in Elonei Amori. So what does Avram do? Vayishma Avram ki nishba achiv. Avram hears that his brother was captured. Vayorek es chanichov. He arms. Rashi, the art school says he arms. He kind of energized. He kind of got them moving. Yelide beso shmona asar ushlosh meos. 318 vayirdof adan. He gets 318 men together, and they chase these 4 kings who defeated the 5 kings, who obviously had a lot more than 318 men. And according to some, 318 is the numerical value of Eliezer. So it's just Avram and Eliezer chasing. According to the Medrash, that's the 318 was the number that wasn't literally 318 men. It was just Avram and Eliezer chasing 4 kings who defeated 5 kings. Now watch this. They split up into groups at night. Vayakem, he smites them. And he chases them all the way up into near Damascus. And look at that, gentlemen. The whole thing is one pasuk. Doesn't say a word about his strategy, except that they divide it up into 2. Doesn't tell us the details of the war. Doesn't tell us anything. One pasuk in the Torah about how Avram defeated the 4 kings. Next week's Parsha, when 3 guests come to his house, the Torah goes into intricate detail about how he served these guests. The whole first section is all about serving the guests. A world war gets one pasuk. Giving the guests food, bread, and that gets a whole discussion, which tells you what is our value. Why do we care how he won the war? That means something? Does the strategy, military strategy, we're not impressed. That a guy in pain goes out and brings in 3 guests and he serves them a repair. Now that's impressive. That's what we care about. A world war, it's like reading a history book. Right? It's like reading a history book. The World War, they got volumes and volumes written on the world wars. Right? Who's written this in the World War? We're interested in the Chesed Committee. Right? They don't do that. They don't talk the war, this, the strategy. And over here, the whole war is one pasuk. 1 second. Then he brings back, he brings everybody back and Lot. Okay. What is going on here? So first of all, why does Avram get involved? Remember we spoke about he's the man of chesed, yet he's the guy who gets involved in a world war. That means, remember we spoke about that if you control the Midah or the Midah controls you. That means Avram Avinu, it didn't matter to him what he's supposed to do. If he did chesed because you're supposed to do chesed. But when Hashem says, right now, if Avram Avinu feels, hey, I have to save the oppressed, and it means killing a few people, then that's what I have to do. Avram Avinu, it's the first war we have in that. Well, we had a killing, Cain killed Hevel. But we don't have a war. It's the First World War. There's a mistake. People say, well, the First World War was in 1914. No, it wasn't. It was the Second World War. And the Third World War was in 1939. That was the Third World War, not the Second War. This was the First World War. 4 kings against 5 kings. That's a world war. So Avram Avinu says, what's going on here? These guys came from Babylonia, Shinar, and they come into the land of Israel simply because they needed stuff. So they just went around killing people? What kind of business is that? That's not proper behavior. You can't go around killing people. And so Avram Avinu says that's not right. He's the man. The world is a chesed world. What are you going around killing people for? So he says this is not. That's why he gets involved. First of all, they're doing wrong. You don't go around killing people just because you want it, so you kill them. So Avram Avinu takes a stand. So he goes out with his 318 men, or with Eliezer, right? Or with the famous story with the Lone Ranger and Tonto. You've heard of Lone Ranger, haven't you? Am I dating myself? You never heard of Lone Ranger? No. Oh, you guys, I can't. I quit. I quit right now.
Power Rangers, we know.
They're the Power Rangers. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No. There is no hope. There is no hope, Mayor. There is no hope for him at all. The Lone Ranger and Tonto were a classic. And the Lone Ranger with his Indian sidekick Tonto. right? So the famous story of the Lone Ranger in Tonto, because Tonto is always calling him Kimasabi. Yeah, right, so there's a famous story, Lone Ranger in Tonto. They're riding along, and all of a sudden they're surrounded by a band of Indians. So the Lone Ranger turns to Tonto and he says, "Looks like we're in trouble, Tonto." And he turns and he says, "What do you mean we, Kimasabi?" So Abraham Avinu is going off with Eliezer, and they're fighting a world war. So the Gemara says, the Medrash, how did they fight this war? They picked up dirt, and they threw the dirt turned into bows and arrows and spears. Just picked up a handful of dirt, and they threw the dirt, and miraculously turned into arrows and spears. That's what the Medrash says. Okay. So if that's how you fight a war, that works. Remember the old Cowboy and Mindy, the Gatling gun. Remember the Gatling gun? The Indians come riding in, the guy's grinding the Gatling gun and mowing down Indians. Like I said, they're throwing dirt, they're mowing them down over there. Like a Gatling gun, the original Gatling gun. Gatling was probably, probably a Jewish guy who discovered it, right? Gatlingberg was his original name. They just cut it down to Gatling, or Gatling Sting. So Avraham Avinu fights, okay. So what's going on here? And what's Lot got to do with this? And what's it got to do with what we asked earlier, that Avram and Lot looked alike? The answer is that the Torah says, who was the first king here? The first king mentioned is Amraphel, which is Nimrod. Who was the actual guy in charge was the third one, Kedar Laomer. Kedar Laomer was the king that the others had rebelled against. But Amraphel seems to be the motivating force here. So the idea is, I heard this from a friend of mine, Rabbi Yaakov Minkus, but others mention it as well. You see, Avram and Nimrod went at it once before. Nimrod had was a pagan, worshipped idols, and Avram is the monotheist preaching all about a Ribono Shel Olam, all about God in the world. Who won round one? Avram Avinu got round one. Nimrod, there's payback time. An entire war is fought for one reason. He wants to capture Lot. So now he walks around parade. Remember, in those days there was no what do you call it? You didn't have technology. There was no mass media. Nobody knows what's going on. All we know is they look alike. He captures Lot, puts him in a cage, and he could parade him around the world now and say, "See, I captured, my God overcame Avram Avinu's God." At that point, Avram Avinu says, there's a potential of a Chilul Hashem here, the desecration of God's name. And therefore, I'm going to show Nimrod that I can't allow God's name to be desecrated. And once God's name is being desecrated, then Avram Avinu says, I'm going to fight him. And not only am I going to fight him, I'm going to fight him miraculously to show that there's a God in the world. So Avram Avinu fights them, and he fights them miraculously by picking up dirt and throwing the dirt at them. And the whole point of the war is to schlep Avram Avinu out, to draw him out, to get Lot, and to create this Chilul Hashem. Nimrod wants to show, see, I captured him. And Lot's going to say, no, it's not him, it's me, I'm his nephew. We don't know from nephews, we don't know from, all we see is, we've heard about Avram Avinu, we've seen, maybe portraits of Avram Avinu, they look exactly like he's captured Avram Avinu. At that point, Avram Avinu says, I can't allow for a Chilul Hashem. And Avram Avinu gets involved in the war, and this entire war is a war all about the Jews. At the end of the day, you got a world war, and the world war is because of the Jews. Everything that happens because of the Jews. The Jews are there. And Avram Avinu fights, and he fights with he fights with miraculously, captures everything. He gets everything. He brings back all the property, and he brings it back to the king of Sodom. Mayor, what we're going to ask?
Yeah, just there has to be a deeper idea of why they look alike so much to get this situation.
Why did they look alike to begin with? So we can say they looked alike because they were family. Family, sometimes you see that family looks alike. People ask me all the time if I'm related to Cristiano Ronaldo. That people just think we look alike. I don't see it so much, but people think so, but people ask all the time, So the answer is no. But what can I do? That's what we look like. That's what we look like. I can't do anything about it. My brother and I, certainly there was always competition. He was always, I think my brother had a complex, actually. He developed a complex because he's not as good looking as me. That was, what can you do? Some guys got to have the brains. He got the brains. What can I do? I got to have something. So he...
Yeah, is it like somehow like could be like Bnei Israel and Am Israel like somehow?
That I don't know. That I don't know. But what's underlying this is, in other words, and you look at the Torah and you say, wow, one detail or one pasuk to describe a world war. They went to war, they won. It's like people make the joke all the time about Yontif. Every Yontif is, the enemies wanted to kill us, we beat them, let's eat. Right? That's every Yontif. They wanted to destroy us, we survived, a meal. Right? It's tongue in cheek, but it's very. We care exactly what kind of missiles Avram Avinu used. Chazal say he threw dirt at them. Avram Avinu felt, listen, anyway I can't win. By natural law I can't win, but I got to do something about it, so I'll throw dirt. This goes to the story, I believe that this goes to the story of Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa. Right? The Gemara says that Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa's daughter was upset. So he said to her, what are you upset about? It's Gemara. What are you upset about? She said, well, instead of oil, I put vinegar into the Shabbos candles. So she was upset. She substituted vinegar for oil. So Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa said to her, the one who told the oil to burn, he'll tell the vinegar to burn. And it burned the entire Shabbos, and it burned continuously until Motzei Shabbos, longer than it should have, and they made Havdalah on that flame. What's the Gemara telling you? If somebody would ask you, why does oil burn? What would they tell you? Why does oil burn? They'd give you all sorts of fancy words about combustibility, and I'm going to give you a whole drasha over there. Why does it burn? It only burns because God said the oil should burn. Why does rain make grass grow? Only because God said that rain should make it. It could have been marshmallow fluff. Can you imagine? You put marshmallow fluff on your lawn, and that'll make it grow, right? And you put rain in your sandwich, and then you made instead of a fluffer nutter, you have a rainer nutter. Right, that's what they call it. It could have been the opposite. The only reason it is because God said it is. So the same God that said oil goes, okay, so this time he'll tell the vinegar. He told the oil to burn, so the vinegar will burn. Now, I want to tell you something. If at any point on that Shabbos, that means it's a level of belief, it's a level of faith. You got to believe that God that oil only burns because God said oil should burn. If at any point on that Shabbos somebody would have walked past the candles and go, hey, wow, the vinegar is really burning, then it wouldn't have burned. If you're really surprised by it, that means you're not on that level of belief. It means to Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa, it was completely, what do you call it? It was just, it's all the same to him. And apparently to his daughter as well. So it burned. That's what Avram Avinu said. Listen, what's the difference? How I'm going to fight this war. Either way, I'm totally relying on the Ribono Shel Olam. What little miracles he can do, big miracles he can't do. I'm totally reliant on it. The fact the Ramban says that we see, the splitting of the sea, that's a miracle. The splitting of the sea, that's a miracle. The fact that I can do like this is also a miracle. Just that we take it for granted. We got used to it. Everything we do is a miracle. Oh, because my brain sends impulses through the nerves to my finger. I can move my finger. I don't know what's going on in there. The more you think, if you think about it, you wouldn't be able to move your finger. It's not like I think, okay, impulse, right? It's just kind of without even thinking. So the little things that we do is all a miracle. The whole thing is a miracle. So what's the difference? Big miracle, little miracle. Now, where do we find this in the Gemara, by the way? There's a man named Nachum Ish Gamzu. Remember we've spoke about Nachum. He's the one who always used to say Gamzu L'tova. So where did Gamzu L'tova come from? So Nachum Ish Gamzu was once sent by the Jewish people to bring a gift to some emperor, whoever the king was at the time. He sent to bring a gift to the emperor. So they gave him a box and they filled the box with gems to bring to the gemstones, to bring to the emperor. So Nachum Ish Gamzu was taking this box. He stayed at some sort of inn. And in the course of the night, the people who owned the inn, they opened up his box and they checked the box, and they saw the gems. They stole the gems and filled the box with dirt. So the next morning, there's one opinion in the Gemara that he actually opened the box and he saw the box is filled with dirt. There's no more gems. There's one opinion in the Gemara. There's a different gear. There's one opinion he took a look. He said Gamzu L'tova, and he closed up the box. There's another opinion that he didn't, because he wouldn't have gone to the king if he would have known what was in there. There's another opinion that was only started afterwards. Whatever the case was, he said Gamzu L'tova. And so he goes to the king. And when he gets to the king, they said, open the box. He said, I have a gift for you from the Jewish people. So they open up the box, and it's dirt to the king. And the king says, okay, listen, you're making fun of me, I'm going to execute you and I'll destroy and I kill all the Jews. And he said, Gamzu L'tova. And then Eliyahu Navi came incognito, dressed up as one of theirs. He says, oh, emperor, maybe that's the famous dirt that their ancestor Avram used when he went chasing Nimrod. Give it a test. Give it a try. So apparently there was one province that he couldn't conquer that was giving him a hard time. So he sent his men out with this dirt, and they threw the dirt, and it turned into arrows, and they defeated the enemies. So he said, ooh, good stuff. So he filled the thing with gems, and he gave it to Nachum Gamzu, and he sent them back to the Jewish people. He said, Gamzu, so he gets to the inn, and the people at the inn said to Nachum Gamzu, what happened? They were surprised to see him back. He says, well, you know what you put in, what I took from here, I gave him, and he was very happy, so he gave me gems. So the Gemara says they dismantled their inn to provide as much dirt as possible, put it into boxes and crates, went up to the king, and they said, hey, we got some more of that dirt. And they tried it and it didn't work. So they killed them all. That's what the Gemara says. They had a happy ending. All right, so they killed them all. So that was where the dirt of Avram Avinu showed up later in history when Nachum Gamzu went to the king. Gamzu L'tova, I told you, is when something happens, you say Gamzu L'tova, this is for the best. This too is for the best. It doesn't mean it doesn't hurt. It just means that it's obviously got a purpose. So if a guy's stuck in traffic, you say Gamzu L'tova. It doesn't mean it's not frustrating. It just means I understand that God wanted me to be stuck in traffic. Assuming one hasn't done anything irresponsible. The guy bends down and smacks his head on the table. You say Gamzu L'tova. Right? You say Gamzu L'tova. Because obviously it was meant to happen, assuming I didn't do anything irresponsible. Don't say it to other people, though. You never say to somebody else who smacks his head on a table, Gamzu L'tova. Right? Because then he'll hit you over the head with a chair and he'll say Gamzu L'tova. Then you're going to end up in a Gamzu L'tova fight. Right? Don't be a philosopher on other people's what's that?
So ultimately that's Gamzu L'tova because it's a great learning lesson.
It's a great learning, yeah. We'll all Gamzu L'tova each other. Yeah. Then you come home with the Bruce. What happened? It was a Gamzu L'tova lesson today. No Gamzu L'tovas on other people's expense. Now, Nachum Gamzu had a disciple. Who was his disciple? Rabbi Akiva. What did Rabbi Akiva used to say? Kol ma de'ovid rachmana l'tav. Whatever Hashem does is for the best. So Rabbi Akiva was once traveling, the Gemara says, and he got to a town. Rabbi Akiva had a donkey, and he had a chicken, and he had a lantern. And he goes to this town, and when he gets to this town, he needed to be put up for the night. They wouldn't host Rabbi Akiva. So he went off into the forest, he went out into the woods, or into the fields, to sleep for the night. What could he do? So a lion came along, and the lion ate his donkey. He was like, Gamzu L'tova. And then another animal, I forgot what it was, a cat came along or something, ate the chicken. The Gamzu L'tova. And then the wind blew out his lantern, so now he's in the pitch black out in the the Gamzu L'tova. He said, he didn't say Gamzu, he said, Kol ma Dovid L'tova, whatever Hashem, he said in Aramaic, whatever Hashem does is for the good. The next morning he woke up and he goes to the town. The entire town had been massacred by an invading army. So he said to his Talmidim, see, I told you, everything happens, Gamzu, it's all for the best. It's sometimes you see it tangibly. The donkey didn't bray because the lion ate the donkey, so he couldn't bray, so he didn't give Rabbi Akiva away. The chicken couldn't. What do chickens do? They cock-a-doodle-doo, whatever it is. The chicken couldn't. The rooster, the chicken couldn't make chicken sounds, right? So they wouldn't know the chicken is there. What did they call it? They couldn't crow. You couldn't. What do they call it? Or whatever it was that my friends used to do to me all the time. Whenever I'd cross the street because I saw thugs on the other side. I was always crossing the street, so they were all going, bark, bark, bark. And then what do you call it? And then the lantern goes out because the wind blows out the lantern. By the way, my brother and I, that's all it took. If my brother, I'd say, come on, let's play some chess. He says, no, he's reading away. He says, no, I don't feel like playing. I said, come on, let's play. No, I don't want to play. Bark, 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 bark. That's all that guy. Darn it, he closed the book and we sit down and play chess. Didn't matter chess, one-on-one, and basketball. Didn't matter. All you had to do is crow like a chicken. And he'd say, I'm not chicken, but I'm not playing you. Bark, 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 bark. That's it. Eventually, that's all it took. That's all it took. So Rabbi Akiva says, Command David Rahman al. Whatever Rabbi Akiva did, whatever Hashem does is for the best. Sometimes we don't see it. We don't see it immediately. Sometimes only down the line. That's how Rabbi Avinu fought this war. Okay, that's as far as the war. Now, let's go on. And there's a big question here. The king of Sodom comes out. Starting on Pasuk Chaf Aleph, on page 64. Watch this exchange. Vayomer melech Sodom el Avram. Ten li an nefesh v'arachush kach loch. Give me the people that you've rescued, my people, that I'm the king over them, and you take the property. Page 64, 6 lines from the bottom. Give me the people, you take the property. Vayomer Avram el melech Sodom. Harimosi yadi el Hashem kel elyon konei shemayim v'aretz. I'm making an oath. He raises his hand. I raise my hand and vow to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Imichut ve'ad srochnal. I won't even take a shoelace or a thread from you. V'mekach mikol asher loch v'lo somar ani sharti es Avram. I won't take a thing. I don't want you saying you made me wealthy. I don't want anything from you. Take it all back. I don't want you to say you made me wealthy. So the question here that everybody asks, a famous question. Here, Avram's not willing to take any sort of reward or payment. Why was he willing to take payment from Paro, who made him rich? Paro made Avram rich originally in exchange for Sarah. Why wasn't he able? Here, he's not willing to take any payment. Why not? What's the difference between the two? When he came out of Mitzrayim, Paro paid him. He got rich coming out of Mitzrayim. What did he say?
So what I heard is that he knew that the Jews would leave with wealth, so he's like, okay,
To make the sign for the future that they'll read with war. I was thinking along those. I actually thinking along those lines. It could be. There are other answers that people give. There are other answers that people give. One of the answers, that was a fair sale. He sold her to Paro. We told you, and when they were alone, Sarah said, I'm his wife. And Paro said, wife's wife, you're his sister. All right, listen, I'm telling you, you want to buy it. Could be. Here, you didn't do anything for me. You want to reward me? I don't want rewards. There was a sale. It could be. I think the real answer is that what we spoke about earlier. What was Avraham Avinu's mission in life? What was he doing? That was one of the things he was doing. Spreading the awareness of Hashem. And Hashem, and Rashi brings down here that he said to the king of Sodom, I don't want you saying you got me rich, because Hashem promised he's going to make rich.
That's what's spreading.
Avram Avinu is spreading the word of Hashem. And if Avram Avinu, he says, I don't want you saying it. If he's concerned about himself, he would have said, I don't want to feel that you made me rich. I want to feel Hashem made rich. That's what normal people would say. I don't want to feel that I'm indebted to you. I don't want to feel beholden to you. I want that I'm only beholden to God. It's not what he said. He said, I don't want you to give me money because I don't want you saying you made me rich. What does that mean? Paro is in Egypt. It's a long way from Israel, from Eretz Canaan. Paro's over there. Nobody sees him. Nobody knows about him. They didn't even know the story. Who knows? He's not going to interfere with Avram Avinu's life mission. Paro's in Egypt. What, he's going to spread the word that he gave money? He doesn't care. He just wants Avram Avinu out of there. The king of Sodom is right here on location in Eretz Canaan. I don't want this guy walking around, and remember, Sodom, there are a bunch of wicked, evil people who are living for the moment, and the last thing they want is to acknowledge that there's a God. I don't want this guy undermining my life efforts. I don't want him walking around telling people, I made Avraham Avinu rich. I want to be able to show people that God made me rich, and not that the king of Sodom should get to interfere. Don't do me any favors. I don't want you saying it, because I know you. And you're going to walk around saying that you made me rich. That's going to undermine my entire life mission. And therefore, Avraham doesn't want it. Okay, now go ahead. Let's go on. Now I'm going to show you something that's going to give you the goosebumps. Sarah Imenu comes to Avram Avinu. Page 70. And the Torah says, page 70, 4 lines from the top. Sarah Eshes Avram lo yolda lo v'lo shivcha mitzis u'shma Hagar. Sarah Avinu, page 74th line. Sarah has not given birth. She has an Egyptian maidservant, the daughter of Paro. Paro says, I want you to take my daughter and she'll be your maidservant. A man like you, person like you, my daughter should be a maidservant to you instead of an Egyptian prisoner. I can't imagine what Hagar is going, what kind of downgrade that is. Do you imagine what kind of downgrade it is? You got a ticket in first class And as you get on the plane, they say, oh, sorry, we're overbooked. We're putting you in the back row middle seat. Right? Could you imagine? Could you imagine such a thing? By the way, I heard once I was at an airport. Where was I? I forgot where I was. And they got these people, what's called standby. The standby. So this guy walks up to the counter. I guess he's checking on his thing, and I had just arrived, and this guy walks up to the counter, and the lady behind, she was not in a good mood anyway, and she says to the guy, "Sir, I told you that I'll call you if something becomes available. Now, if you keep bothering me, I'm going to put you in the back row in the middle seat. You want that?" That was her threat. She didn't threaten to throw him out of the plane at 35,000 miles. That's nothing. Oh, that we can handle. But the back row, middle seat, there are very few fate. There's no fate in life, no fate worse than death, I once read a survey. They asked a person, you got 4 choices. What would you prefer least? Okay, a trip to the dentist, shopping in the mall on the busiest day of the year, a middle seat on a transatlantic flight, or being stuck in traffic. Which of the 4 would you least want? Which of the 4 is the worst possible? Traffic, shopping at the mall on the worst, going to the dentist, or the middle seat on a transatlantic flight? Which would you say? Most people said, what do you call it? According to that survey, I think it was most of it said traffic. Because everything else, even if you're in the middle seat, at least you're going somewhere. And if you go to the dentist, something's happening. And if you're shopping, eventually you're going to get it. When you're in traffic, nothing is happening. Your life is basically on hold. All that's happening is your clock is ticking. Absolutely nothing is happening other than you coming up, mustering up all the vocabulary words which you thought that you had forgotten about. Right? That's the other. Oh, whatever it is, this is a downgrade for Hagar. She was an Egyptian princess, and she now becomes a servant. So Sarah comes to Avram and she says, listen, Hashem has not given me children. She says, I want you to marry my servant, Bona el Shifchasi, Ulai ibana mimena, maybe I will be built as a result of her. Vayishma Avram lekol Sarai. Avram obeys the voice of Sarai. So Rashi says over here, you talk about Avram Avinu is now going to live with an Egyptian woman? What gives him the right to do that? If he kept all the halachas of the Torah, do me a favor, hold the pen.
Happy wife, happy life.
Yeah, but that's it's a nice pithy saying, but that doesn't help you when it comes to halacha, right? It just happens to be true. So look at Rashi. It's the right column of Rashi, 5 lines from the bottom. Vayishma lekol Sarai leruach hakodesh sheba. Avram obeyed her because he felt that it was coming from ruach hakodesh. Right column, 5 lines from the bottom. Lekol Sarai, 6 lines from the bottom. Leruach hakodesh sheba. So, my mother used to always tell me this, that why husbands should listen to their wives. And he pointed out to this over here. My mother used to quote this. She says, Sarah, he had to listen because she had Ruach HaKodesh. So I said, Mom, the Torah points out the exceptions, not the rules. Right? and I'm just my wife's name is Sarah. So there we go. So at the end of the day, what is Sarah's plan over here? How's this going to help her? She says, maybe I will become built up to have children, because I'm allowing you to marry her. What's one thing got to do with the other? How's that going to help Sarah? So there are 2 approaches here. One approach is that, and it's the simplest approach, Avram doesn't have children at this point either. Sarah feels that it's because of her. If I allow you to have children with a different woman, maybe that'll be a merit for me, and Mida Keneged Mida, Kodesh Baruch Hu give me children also. Number 1. Number 2, there's an approach that says she didn't expect to have children. She felt, look, my goal was to have a child, and then I would build this child up in the ruchni, the spiritual. I imbue him with our morals, values, and goals, and aspirations. It would come from me. I can't do that, so I'll give you a different woman to help provide the body for the child. And I will then raise the child, and I'll instill in the child the values. That's the approach. That her goal here was at least to have the child that she could then educate and train the child, be mechanech the child. So Avram, she takes Hagar, and she gets pregnant. And if you look at Pasuk Dalet, it says, Vayovo el Hagar vatahar, she becomes pregnant. Pasuk Dalet, she becomes pregnant. And you notice the word vatahar. What word is in the word vatahar? Har, which means what? A mountain. Well, what does a pregnant woman look like? She becomes mountainous, right? That's where it comes from. Vatahar, she became, that's what the word means. She became mountainous. What do you think? It doesn't say she became a valley, it says she became a mountain. Vatera ki harasa vatekal gevirta be'irdeha. She became pregnant, and her mistress, Sarah, she started taking her lightly. Now watch this pasuk, gentlemen. Vatomer Sarai el Avram, chamasi alecha. I have claims against you. Well, how does he train? The outrage against me is due to you. Anochi nasati shivchasi b'cheikecha. I gave you my maidservant. Vatera ki arasa, she saw she got pregnant. Va'ikal be'ineha. And she's taking me lightly now. She's not respecting me. Vayishpad Hashem beini veinecha. Hashem should judge between us. Take a look at Rashi. Rashi says, chamasi alecha. You have to see this inside. Gentlemen, you have to see this inside. Because this applies to us today. Left column, second line. Chamasi alecha. Chamas ha'asui li. It's not Hamas that we're suffering from now, even though there's no coincidence in life. The disrespect done to me, Alechani matila. You're at fault. Why? When you daven to Hashem, you said, Matitedli, what will you give me, Hashem? I'm childless. Lo hispalalta alecha, you daven only for yourself. You should have davened for both of us. And I would have had children with you. What's Sarah saying? You cheated me. You deprived me of what's rightfully mine. You know what's called depriving somebody? If you could daven for somebody and you don't, you're depriving them. We're not. It's like we think, oh, we daven for somebody. Oh, we're doing them a favor. It's true. But if we don't daven, we're depriving them. Okay, this applies nowadays. You got guys fighting. You got guys on the battlefront. What could we do? People say, what can we do nowadays? We could daven. No, we could daven. We should daven. We have to daven. We have a person that says, my davening really going to help? Yes. Yes, it helps. Do we know how it helps, how much it helps, which davening helps, which tefillah helps? We don't know. But we know that it helps. And look what happened. She says to Avram, if you would have davened for me also, she doesn't even say it as a doubt. She said, we would have had a child together. Now think about this, gentlemen. She didn't daven. He didn't daven. And as a result of him not davening, she didn't have a child. So she gave him Hagar. So what results from that? Ishmael. That means as a result of not davening, that's why we have Ishmael. Had she had a child, this would have never happened. So it's because he didn't daven, that's why we end up with Ishmael. That's why we're suffering today from Ishmael. So imagine a person nowadays could be davening, and he doesn't daven. One person's davening, my tefillah, could be the difference between a Ishmael today who could be neutralized and isn't because of my tefillah. Everybody should feel that responsibility, especially this. 1 second. So then, Sarah causes Hagar some torment. She runs away. But then watch this. This Rav Hirsch says this. I mean, if you don't get the goosebumps from this. 3 lines from the bottom. She miscarried the first pregnancy, according to one opinion, because Sarah gave her an ayin hara. Then it says 3 lines from the bottom. Vayomer la malach Hashem. So here's Hagar is out in the desert now. She ran away from Sarah. She's out in the desert. He says, Hina chara v'yaladet ben. You're going to get pregnant and you're going to have a son. V'karas shebo Yishmael. You'll name him Yishmael. You should name him Yishmael. Ki shama Hashem el onyech. Because Hashem has heard your suffering. So you'll call him Ishmael. He has heard about your suffering. You call him Ishmael. And what's this guy going to be? V'hu yeh pera adam. Take a look at the Art Scrolls translation. He shall be a wild ass of a man. Yodo bakol v'yad kol bo. His hand will be on everybody, and everybody's hand will be against him. There's going to be a whole lot of him. He's going to be all over the place. Just ask the French, and ask the Germans, and ask the people in Detroit, and ask the English. right? To say nothing of the Saudi Arabians and the whatever, wherever they're supposed to be. They're all over the place. And they're increasing in like grass grows. And they're taking over all of Europe. And there isn't a darn thing anybody could do about it. Because you have 0 population growth in Europe and you got 10 population growth by them. Right? And they're taking over. They're taking over. It's like a wave coming at you, and there's nothing you can do about it. They're all over the place. But watch this. He's described as being a para Adam. The word wild, he's a wild man. Now listen to this. In Hebrew, in English, let's take English first. What comes first, the noun or the adjective? The noun. No. A nice man, a big man, a handsome man, right? Adjective, and then the noun. What about in Hebrew? Opposite. Ish tov, the noun, and then the adjective. Ish yafeh, ish nechmad. What is he called over here? He's called a para Adam. He's called a man wild, not a wild man. In other words, in Hebrew, if I wanted to describe him as being a wild man, I would have said he's an Adam para. It doesn't say he's an Adam para. He's not a wild man. He's a wild, he's in other words, man in this context is not the noun. Man is the adjective. What is he in his, the noun is he's a wild. What kind of wild? He's a para. What kind of para? Adam. He looks like a human being. He could have been a cat. He could have been a tiger. He could have been a dog. He happens to be, but his essence, he's a wild. No. What are we talking about over here? He's a savage. He's a savage who happens to be in human form. It's not a human being. That's a human being. These are human beings. Not human beings. They're subhuman. They're not humans. Whatever else they are, they're not human. So he's a wild. We don't have the word in English for somebody. You're called a wild. You're a para. What kind of para? Adam. That's the description of what he is. Remarkable. Because otherwise it would have said he's an Adam para. It doesn't say he's a para Adam. Now, take a look at Targum Onkelos. Yud Beis, 3 lines from the bottom in Onkelos. If you find on page 70, 3 lines from the bottom in the Onkelos on the side. Take a look. If you find it, show the person next to you. V'huye morod be'enosha. He will be the rebellious one in mankind. Right? Isn't this, gentlemen, you don't hear exactly what goes on. The United States is always pushing Israel to reach some sort of treaty and a peace agreement and everything else, because they started with a given that we're dealing with people who are reasonable European mentality, where you make a treaty and a contract. He's a rebel again. He doesn't obey societal rules. Watch this. He'll need everyone. And everybody's going to need him. What do you think that's referring to?
Oil.
I would say so. What have they got in Saudi Arabia? 2 things.
Sand.
And oil. That's it. They got no other exports, right? No sand. They got sand and they got oil. Yeah, everybody else has everything. United States has military. England has technology. Israel has Bisley. Everybody has something that they're major, Bamba, they're major exports. Everybody's got something, right? What do they got? They got oil, and everybody needs it. They got one thing, and everybody needs it. So now look at Rashi. What Rashi says about him. Bottom line of Rashi, left column. Yodo bakol, says Rashi, listib, the bandit, a robber. And if you know anything about their mentality, Yodo bakol, hakol sonim oso. Everybody hates them. If you know anything about their mentality, if they steal something from you, if you get ripped off or if they cheat you or steal from you, whose fault is it? Yours. That's right. What do you, in Hebrew they have a word, atafrayer. You let yourself get taken, it's your fault. It's your fault, everybody knows it. So it's a generalization, and I'm sure there are some good ones somewhere. There's a good one somewhere, right? But But the Torah is telling you this is them. This is them. That's what we're dealing with. And now it's not us who sees it. Now it's everybody who sees it. This is a human being. You're not dealing with humans. You're dealing with a wild. My wife and I were once sitting in an airport. I think we were in Greece. We were flying Olympic Airways. I think we saved about $25 on a ticket. It was the airline that was hijacked most often. But listen, for $25, and we're Jewish, so we're in the airport, and they call a flight for like Air Egypt or Air Saudi Arabia or something. And then we're sitting there in the airport, and the airport was packed with Muslims. And all of a sudden they call it. We hear them calling this flight. We're just sitting there, and they say, okay, Air Pakistan, something boarding. And also we hear a stampede. And the benches, everything is they just started rushing the entrance, knocking over the benches, we're just absolutely shocked. And years ago, they're going back a long, long time ago, just trashing the place, getting in. There's no concept of, when you pass by an Arab village, you see you see how they planned the building plans there. No building plans at all, right? Here's a house and here's another house. You can tell that it has zero plan and purpose, because they're essentially, what Rav Hirsch says, is they're essentially nomads. They're wanderers. They live in deserts. They don't have city living like we understand it. That's the idea. Okay. Call it the real first world. Call it the real First World War.